The Cardinals' most underrated portal addition is going to be a game changer in the trenches.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? And welcome in to this Friday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. Today's episode is brought to you by KALSHI. For a limited time, download the KALSHI app. Use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. It is that time of the offseason. Today, we begin to reveal my Louisville Football top 15 player rankings. This is episode 1 of the 3-part series where we reveal players ranked 15th through 11th. We're going to discuss the offensive X factor, a pair of pass rushers, the ultimate breakout season, and the Cardinals' most underrated portal addition. Now, I don't want to bury the lead or delay the rankings, but there are a couple things that I have to highlight. If you're an everydayer of the show and you've tuned in to this series over the past couple of years, historically, it's been a 5-part series where we talk about 3 players per show. Well, that's the major change. This year, it's a 3-part series highlighting 5 players per show. That's the only thing that is really changing because the formula for me to create this list remains the same. If you need a reminder, the things that I take into consideration are overall talent, projected production, where a player ranks at his respective position in the conference and throughout the country, and overall impact for the team. Now, there isn't one quote-unquote metric that automatically holds more weight than the others, but it's a combination. I've said this countless times. I completely believe that this is the most talented roster on paper that Jeff Brohm has ever had in his coaching career. So, Dalton, by default, this should have been the hardest exercise to complete, right? If it's the best roster, this should have been the toughest exercise. Well, I can 100% confirm that. This was tough. There were some players I left off the rankings that I sat there afterwards and said, man, can I really leave that player off the rankings? And of course, it's not a knock on those players. It's no disrespect to those players. It's more so a testament to just how good and talented this roster is. At the end of this series, I feel confident that you're going to agree with me that all 15 players in these rankings are guys that could possibly be all ACC level players. That's how good this roster is. Jeff Brohm and company did a great job this offseason, retaining top talent, overhauling the roster through the portal, addressing the major needs. Like, this was a great offseason. And starting at number 15, I went back and forth with 2 incoming offensive line transfers. And I love the way that Louisville built the offensive line through the portal. But I had to choose one. And I went with Cason Henry, the South Carolina transfer, to be ranked at number 15. Cason Henry is going to be a plug-and-play guy on the right side of that offensive line, and it's no surprise that he is the projected starter at right tackle early on in fall camp. From what I've heard is that he has lived up to the expectations and has performed at a high level so far through about the first week of fall camp. Now, Cason Henry started 2 seasons at South Carolina, but he spent 4 years in Columbia. So 2 seasons as a full-time starter, most recently in 2024. He only allowed 6 sacks and 31 total pressures in 816 total snaps. That, I think, came out to 417 pass blocking snaps. Really solid numbers in the SEC. He was the projected top offensive lineman for Shane Beamer's team heading into 2025, but injuries early on in September ended up derailing his 2025 campaign. But the reason why I included Cason Henry on this list was because when he's on the field, he's going to be one of the best right tackles in the ACC. It's not going to shock me whatsoever that if he stays healthy and you look at this team halfway through the season and you're sitting there saying, man, Cason Henry has just been dominant at right tackle, it's not going to shock me whatsoever because he was really good at the SEC, and that's going to translate. If you're really good in the SEC in the trenches, you should be, in theory, really good in the ACC. Now, Cason Henry, 6'6", 300 pounds, redshirt senior. The reason why he's not higher up on this list for me is because of the injuries. I mentioned that he was a 2-year starter. Well, the other 2 seasons, he spent a good portion of those years injured and battling various injuries. So something that we're going to keep coming back to, and I had to take injuries into consideration because the best ability is availability. And if you can't stay on the field, it's kind of hard to rank that player pretty highly on this list. So that is like the one sole thing that held Cason Henry back in the rankings, but he's good enough that when he's on the field, he's going to be a standout player. He's going to be a game changer in the trenches. He's going to be able to hold it down at right tackle on the outside and do it at an extremely high level. Like, that experience is going to be critical when you get to that first game in Nashville on Labor Day weekend against Ole Miss. Henry is used to playing that level of talent. And you saw that when he plays at a high level. Now, I chose Henry over Boston College interior offensive line transfer Eric Darty. And I really wanted to include Darty in this ranking. He was the first outside looking in player. Technically, he would be ranked 16th. And that's not a knock on him. To be a top 20 player on this team, it's pretty high praise because of how good this team is, the quality of talent on this team. Darty was a starter on the interior at Boston College. Not a great team, but he was one of the bright spots for the Eagles last season. So he would be the ultimate plug-and-play guy. If you start at left guard at Boston College and you perform well, one of the top graded returning interior offensive linemen in the conference, and you stay in conference and go to Louisville, and you're going to start at left guard, like, that is exactly what you want because there's not a lot of risk. Of course, every scheme is different, but it's not hard to realize that you can expect Darty to perform pretty well this season. The reason, and also he doesn't have the injury history that Cason Henry does, so that's why I kind of went back and forth here. But the reason that I gave Cason the advantage was that I felt that Cason's ceiling is higher. I think that Darty might have the higher floor because he doesn't have the injury concerns. But if Cason is right and he's on the field, he very well might be Louisville's best offensive lineman or second best offensive lineman. So that's why he's on these rankings at number 15. Number 14, we go to the other side of the football. Number 14 is linebacker TJ Capers. I'll be honest, Capers was perhaps the toughest player to rank because the upside is tremendous. Like, it's not far-fetched to suggest that there is a world out there where Capers has the ultimate breakout season and ascends to the top 5 in this ranking at season's end. Like, that's not far-fetched at all. But there's also another reality where maybe he just replicates what he does or what he did last season, which wasn't bad. He had a breakout year last year. 46 total tackles, 1 pass deflected, had an interception. That interception was the most important defensive play of the season, that shoestring interception against Miami at the end of the game that sealed the deal in the top upset in program history against the number 2 ranked Hurricanes on the road in Coral Gables. It's huge. He took a step forward. The thing that I keep going back and forth on is how much of a second breakout season can we expect? Now, he's going to get more opportunities. He's the projected starter at weak side linebacker alongside Stanquan Clark in the middle. But, I mean, I think he's going to take another step forward. If he can prove that he can be more than serviceable in coverage, the guy's got all the talent in the world. He's one of the most talented players on this team. He's just got to put it together. 6'2", 225 pounds, came to Louisville, and you kind of didn't know how he was going to be used. Well, early on, they made the decision to move him to linebacker rather than working off the edge as a pass rushing specialist. But I think it's important to look at the timeline. Like, he's going into his 4th season of college, but his first year, he redshirted. He redshirted, but he reclassified. So he joined Louisville a season early in what should have been his senior year of high school, decided to rehab a pre-existing injury, redshirted, and learned the playbook. Now, in 2024, his redshirt freshman season, which should have been his true freshman season in college, he only played a couple of games, had 6 tackles, but played behind guys like TJ Quinn, Gilbert Frierson. Was Frierson 23 or 24? I'm not sure if that was Frierson. It might have been Taz Nicholson, but the years kind of go together for me. But 2024, he was behind a couple players on the depth chart. 2025, when Stanquan Clark got hurt, he got some more opportunities and made the most of it. But how much of a jump and a leap is he going to make? He was the toughest player to rank because the talent suggests that he could rise into the top 10, maybe even to the top 5 if he can put it together. But where we are currently at here on August 14th, I couldn't rank him higher because I think that, the predictability or the lack thereof just sort of makes me rank him a little bit lower. But again, I have a lot of confidence in him being ranked in the top 15, regardless of where a player is ranked, I think is super important, and it is high praise. So TJ Capers is at number 14 for me. When we come back, we're going to reveal numbers 13 and 12, a pair of pass rushers that make up the best edge group in the ACC. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Support for today's episode comes from Indeed Sponsored Jobs. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match specific needs like skills, certifications, and location. So less time gets spent searching, more time gets spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. And the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. One great addition can have a ripple effect on everyone around them. When you find someone who brings the right skills, attitude, and experience, it makes the group better. That's why finding qualified candidates matters so much. And with Indeed, you can spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing those qualified candidates who check off all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed right here at Locked On Louisville. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Be sure to get your daily Cardinals fix completely ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now. Get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonlouisville.supercast.com to claim your free trial. When we went through the position preview series throughout July and early August, one of the maybe the hottest takes that I had, I don't really think it was a hot take, it was just more of like a direct, firm take, is that I believe that Louisville has the best edge group in the conference. And 3 of the top 15 players on this team are, you guessed it, in that room. 2 of them will be talked about in this segment. Number 13 is A.J. Green. A.J. Green was also on the list heading into last season, and he had a breakout year. And decided to return to Louisville over the past couple of off seasons. He's announced his intention to enter the portal and ended up taking his name out of the portal and coming back to Louisville. The 6'6", 250-pound edge rusher from Atlanta has gotten better each and every season. was a part of that Flyville 23 class. Honestly, depending on where you looked, he was the top-ranked player in that class. So he's one of the few remaining players from that class that's still here at Louisville. Had 3 tackles in 2023, 12 tackles and a sack in 2024. Now, throughout the 2025 offseason, I heard great things about A.J. Green. And I thought that a breakout season was incoming. And that hype was enough for me to put him on last year's top 15 player rankings. And I think that he justified that ranking. He had 31 total tackles, which was more than double, almost triple the amount of tackles he had the season before that. He had 6 tackles for loss. He had a career high 4 sacks and a forced fumble. Like, you look at the games that he played, and the forced fumble was at Pittsburgh. He had 1 sack against EKU, 1 at SMU, 1 against Cal, and also 1 against Kentucky. This year, I want to see him more involved setting the edge and defending the run. Now, I know last year he was a key rotational guy because your starters were Cleve Lubin and Wesley Bailey, the transfer from Rutgers. Well, Bailey is out of eligibility. He is now pursuing a professional career, and that means that A.J. Green is probably the projected starter at that defensive end spot opposite of Cleve Lubin. So I think that that's why he's number 13 on this list for me, is because you can't not include him. Because I think that another jump is in the cards, no pun intended, for A.J. Green. Now, what does that look like in terms of production? Wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if you see a season where he gets to 40 tackles total and, let's say, 6 sacks, where he consistently just gets better and better each season. The reason why he's not higher on this list is because production, or projected production, is one of the quote-unquote metrics. And you look at this pass rusher room, you look at this edge group, and there are a handful of players that you can put in and they'll produce. You've got a lot of depth. So the production might not be elite because you're rotating guys in and out. Now, he's going to start, so that's why he's on this list, and I think that he's going to have a great season. But the only thing that holds him back on my ranking here is, number one, the depth at the edge spot. So how much is he going to play? There's going to be a lot of rotating in and out, but Green is going to play. The second thing is, like, impact on the team. Of course, if you don't have Green on the field, you're going to feel that impact. But I think other players in this ranking, if you take them off the field, the impact would be far greater than if you took A.J. Green off the field. And that is no disrespect to A.J. Green. It's more so a testament to how deep that edge group is. Because if you take A.J. Green off the field, you could put Tyler Thompson on the field, who is number 12 on the list in these rankings. Tyler Thompson was one of the top portal additions this past offseason, transferred in from North Carolina, 6'5", 245 pounds, going into his redshirt junior season. And he was 8th in the conference in sacks last year with 7, had 7.5 tackles for loss. Now, he gets the nod over A.J. Green strictly because of production last season. Like, that was the deciding factor. That's all it was, because both of these guys are really talented. They're really good. They're going to play a lot. But Thompson got the edge for me, no pun intended, because of the production in 2025. He had a breakout year at North Carolina, but like with A.J. Green, I want to see Tyler Thompson be able to set the edge. He had 26 tackles last season and made the most out of his pass rush opportunities. The thing that holds him back outside of setting the edge is there's a very good shot he doesn't start. Like, at the moment, he's the projected backup to Cleve Lubin at that Leo spot, which is the outside linebacker that plays right at the line of scrimmage. So that has to be taken into consideration, is that he's not projected to start. So you're going to have the impact there, right? The thing that has held Green back on this ranking is going to be the same thing that holds Tyler Thompson back. And that is, if you take these players out, you still have players that can come in and perform at a high level, and the loss in terms of impact would be greater if other players ranked higher up the position than if they got taken out than if Green or Thompson did, because you still have Cleve Lubin. You've got some other guys like Gerard Smith II. Eric Hazard has been really good this offseason. You've got Micah Carter too. But again, the one thing I don't want you all to think is saying, oh, well, Louisville wouldn't miss Green or Thompson if they weren't able to play. That's completely not what I'm saying. But when you're talking about the top 15 players on this team, and there's not much separating the players on this list, and you have to find something that gives a different player an advantage to justify putting them somewhere on the rankings, you kind of have to split hairs here. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'll reiterate it once again. This was tough. Absolutely tough. It was challenging. But number 13 is AJ Green. Number 12 is Tyler Thompson. When we come back, we're going to reveal the final player in this episode. That'll be player ranked number 11, and that is the ultimate X factor for the Cardinals offense. Don't go anywhere. We'll tell you who that is when we come back. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Before a season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions. Who wins the division? Who makes the playoffs? Who's lifting the trophy at season's end? On KALSHI, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. Like with the Tennessee Titans, can Tennessee win at least 7 games this season? Well, the Titans are currently trading at 49% probability, meaning that a $100 trade pays out $193.71. On KALSHI, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position, trade the draft pick, the game, and more on KALSHI. Download the KALSHI app. Use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. KALSHI. KALSHI. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. KALSHI products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. And before we get into the final segment, got to tell you about our friends over at Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. Well, that's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone work towards the same goal, and that's true in sports just like it is in business. When you look at how this Louisville defense has been moving through fall camp, you hear one thing: chemistry. This defense has been playing together. Not only are they super talented, but when they're playing together, led by Mark Ivey, it's going to be a tough unit to score on. And I think that Mark Ivey understands something. He understands that great organizations win because operations matter. That's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's ODOO.com/lockedon. Card Nation, thank you so much for making Locked On Louisville your first listen of the day. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment in the YouTube section below. Both are great ways to help this show continue to grow. We're continuing through the first episode of the 3-part series where we're ranking the top 15 players on the Louisville football team. And number 11 is Tulsa tight end transfer Brody Foley. Brody Foley is going into his redshirt senior season after he had an incredible breakout year in 2025. The season was good enough to have him recognized as a first-team All-American Athletic Conference member, and he was second in the nation in most receiving touchdowns by a tight end. He had 7. Who was number 1? Well, it's a guy that goes by the name of Kenyon Sadiq. Yes, pretty solid player that ultimately got drafted in the first round of the NFL draft this past April. I think that Brody Foley can be the X factor for this offense. That's not insignificant to say either, because there's a lot of really good players on this offense, both returning players and players that were brought in via the portal. But I look at this offense, and the first thing you look at is the rushing attack. Isaac Brown, Kewan Brown, the two-headed monster in the backfield. Cardinals offense is going to try to establish the run. And not to mention you have Lincoln Kienholz, who can use his legs and mobility. And then you look at the wide receivers, and you have a guy that can take the top off the defense with Trey Richardson. You have a player that has ACC experience in Lil Wayne McCoy, who has been looking really solid this camp, and Cason Henry, who might be the largest surprise throughout the offense. But imagine you have all those weapons, and then you have a walking mismatch in Brody Foley, who's 6'6", 260. He can line up as an inline blocker right on the offensive line. He can be thrown out wide, and you can use him in a variety of different ways. He's too strong for defensive backs to guard him. He's too fast for linebackers to guard him. So he's a walking mismatch. If you're telling me that he's going to be in the middle of that Cardinals offense, and the guy that might not get the most attention because defenses are going to be focused on defending the run and making sure Trey Richardson doesn't get behind the defense and the other players on that offense, and not to mention Lincoln Kienholz scrambling. You got Brody Foley also. Like, that's an insane luxury. That's why he is number 11 on this list, because he's super talented. There's a world where he could be one of the best tight ends in the conference this season. He was one of the best portal tight ends this past offseason. The thing that holds him back, and it's no fault of his own, the tight end position at Louisville over the past couple of seasons hasn't really given players the opportunity to have a ton of production. So the projected production is what's going to hold him back. Like, Louisville has a lot of mouths to feed on the offense. Running the football, the wide receivers, Kienholz is going to take some of the plays himself. And you have some other tight ends that are going to get some run. Jaleel Skinner, Justin Reed, maybe Julius Miles. So there are so many players that are looking for targets that not everyone can be a guy that catches 50 passes in a season or gets over 1,000 yards. And I think that Brody Foley could end up matching his production in terms of the touchdowns from last year, because I think that he's going to be an ultimate red zone threat. But how much of a target share is he going to get? And when you look at the top 15 rankings, and I mentioned that you're splitting hairs here, that unfortunately is going to hold him back on the rankings, because I have to see it to believe it with Brohm's offense with tight ends, because the past 3 seasons, you really haven't seen that production from one player. You've seen the production from multiple different players. Well, I think that Brody Foley is probably the most talented receiver at tight end that you've had at Louisville, or at the time. Like, and I guess you could honestly say Jamari Johnson, but Jamari Johnson isn't what he was now, or wasn't what he is now, right, in 2026. In 2024, and it looked like he might have been able to turn into that player, but he got hurt against Miami, missed the rest of the season, ended up going to the portal, where he's now being looked at as one of the best tight ends in the country. But back in 2024, he was looked at as a breakout candidate rather than being the top player at his position in the conference. So Brody Foley is number 11 because he's super talented. He could be one of the best tight ends in the country. I think he's going to be, tight ends probably in the conference, maybe in the country. In terms of, just overall talent, production-wise, that might be tough. But he's on this list. The reason he's ranked a little bit lower than he might be able to be is because of the projected production. So, number 15, Cason Henry. Number 14, TJ Capers. Number 13, AJ Green. Number 12, Tyler Thompson. Number 11, Brody Foley. Let me know how you would rank those players in the YouTube comments below. That's going to wrap up this Friday edition of the show. We'll be back with you next week. Go Cards.